thank you so much for joining us in this masterclass that we organized with Women in Tech. So today we have Anna with us from Women in Tech. And this is the 5th masterclass in nanotechnology, cybersecurity, quantum computing. And today we have the honor to have Anna Ferreira with us, who founded Women for Cyber. So if you guys are into cybersecurity, this is the person to talk to, for sure. And next week we will have our last masterclass, and it's going to be super interesting because it's about how to be an entrepreneur in the tech world. So you can join via streaming because that one is going to be in Lisbon. And enjoy, and then we can maybe reserve some time for some questions in the end. And thank you for joining. Enjoy.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here sharing some of my experiences, which I hope it's interesting for you. So today's presentation, I'm going to talk about, obviously, cybersecurity and why it can be a double-edged sword. So we know that many devices, from a hammer to a toast to something that we can think of, a technology can have two sides of a coin. So it can be used to harm, to attack, to do whatever, things that we cannot even imagine. But it can also be done to prevent, to detect, to help and support. So cybersecurity solutions are also for that. So we need to make sure we build more of those to prevent and to help than the others, to be in the upper front of the attackers and people that don't want us to be happy and live healthy and happy. So let's start, if this works. Okay, just a moment. Do we have a thing to change? Okay. The keys don't work. Okay, enter works. So we'll start, this is just a small agenda. So we'll start about privacy and security. So defining some concepts. I'm sure many of you already know the basic concepts of cybersecurity. But I'd like to clarify some concepts regarding privacy, security, the main dimensions of cybersecurity, what we want to protect and how and why. And as well, we'll talk about these issues in some of contexts like AI, IoT, quantum, and social engineering. But obviously, this is going to be very brief, so we don't have time for explore in depth. But I'm sure if you have questions, I'm available, no problem, even after the presentation. So let's start with the basics. Sorry. Yes. So privacy and security. Many times we hear the same things like privacy and security are the same concepts, but they are not. So privacy is actually a fundamental human right. It is registered within the United Nations. So we have the right to control who accesses our information. We have the right to keep it private, confidential, to know who accesses it, for what purposes, when it accesses it. So this is the privacy concept. But in fact, we need measures to protect this, to guarantee this. So this is where security, cybersecurity, information security, whatever you want to call it, enters. So we have all the measures, policies, even administrative issues, regulation, everything that can actually guarantee the privacy, the protection of our data. And in the end, providing the protection of our data is about protecting ourselves, our integrity. So I'm many times hear something like this: I have nothing to hide. So I'm a good person, I don't do any harm to anyone, so I have nothing to hide. I don't care if I share everything, you know. If everybody sees it, there's no problem. What's the problem? Well, it may be true that we're all very nice people, but have you nothing to protect? Have you nothing to protect, like your physical and mental integrity, the integrity of your friends, your family, your goods, you know, your money, your identity? So many other things, even if you are in a business or in a school, your intellectual property, things that you really need to protect, to take advantage, for example, in a business setting and so on. So you always have something to protect. If nothing else, your health and your mental and physical integrity. So that's why we need cybersecurity. So the main dimensions of cybersecurity are three. So we start with confidentiality, is usually the one that is more related with privacy. When you talk about privacy, you usually think about confidentiality, but it's not the only one. So confidentiality is about access to information. It's about preventing unauthorized access. So if someone doesn't have authorization, shouldn't be able to access that data that we want to protect. And then we have integrity. So integrity, it's about modification. So in case of confidentiality, we don't want anyone that is not authorized to access, so to view, but we also don't want anyone that is not authorized to change data, to change the integrity. That's very important, especially in healthcare. I'm going to give probably many examples in healthcare. That's the setting that I work. I work at the Faculty of Medicine at University of Porto, and we usually focus our context in building security solutions for the research projects in healthcare. And I think it's a good example because we need to protect our health. And then we have a third dimension. So we usually don't think about this dimension, but it should be balanced with the others. So availability is very important. It's very good to have confidentiality, to protect everything. We don't want anyone to access our information, keep it correct and accurate. But then if you don't access it to use it for what is supposed to be used, then what's the point, right? In terms of healthcare, again, is a good example because if you don't have the right information, the accurate information, the access to data to make proper diagnosis, to treat in emergency situations, for example, that's very important. So the availability is also very important, and we need to make sure that we think about it. So these are the main dimensions. Obviously, then close to this, we can have auditing, we can have other more things, but usually they are related to each one of these big ones. So I'll talk a little bit about each one of them. So again, you know, the double-edged sword, vulnerabilities versus what can we do in terms of solutions. But obviously this is not extensive, just some examples. So in terms of confidentiality, vulnerabilities, obviously we think about access. When we think about access, human access, but not only, also process access, and we think about authentication. So someone needs to identify and prove that it is that identity. And then we have access control. If that is not correctly done, we can think about login and password, right? The usual common things. There are many weak things regarding login and password, you all know. Do you know that the most common passwords that we use is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? And Benfica in Portugal is one also in the top, and other things that we can think of. So there are obviously weak passwords that anyone can guess, and they don't need a computer that doesn't need a lot of time to just guess that. So if you have that, obviously you have vulnerabilities that can be exploited, and obviously the system is not secure enough. In terms of access control, it's the next stage. So once you authenticate, you put your ID, your password, then you need to know what you can access in the system. So you have resources, and then usually you have some sort of profile, and you are associated with those resources that you can access. Sometimes you can have more privileges. Sometimes you can leave a company and the access is still there. So this needs to be taken into account. So there are many issues there. And then obviously in communication channel, if it is not protected, anyone that is sniffing the communication channel, then obviously it's not encrypted, it's not protected. We can have many issues as well. What kind of mechanisms do we have? Well, I told you about login and password, but they are not the only ones, and they are not the most secure, but they can use together with other mechanisms. So we can have biometrics, we can have cards, we can have, we can have even a code to the mobile tokens that we can access. I'm sure many of you use multi-factor authentication, so you should at least use the 2 multi-factor authentication. So we need to make sure this is set. And then we can have access control, we can have measures to verify. Usually, we should have an access control policy. An organization should have an access control policy stating, depending on the profile, for example, doctors should be able to access their medical records from the patients they treat, but nurses should access maybe something different. But this should be stated at the administrative level and then put into practice using technology, obviously. And then we have cryptography, obviously, to encrypt the information that passes in the communication channel, but also that stays at rest in a database or in the document, in a file. This obviously protects better the confidentiality of that data. And then auditing and monitoring is for everything. So you need to check everything that is happening within the system. Every action, every access needs to be monitored and needs to be proper checked. So this is Michael. in a nutshell, confidentiality. In terms of integrity, we have vulnerabilities as well. So we can have software errors, what we call sometimes bugs or something like that, that can actually alter the information that is, for example, that needs to come out. The outcomes are not the ones that we are expecting. Then in terms of data insertion, for example, if you have in a form online, we try to insert data regarding, for example, the temperature, but that field lets you put all the characters that are available in the keyboard. Obviously, that won't be very good for integrity in order to search then afterwards that information. But also, within the database, probably you'll create many integrity issues and accuracy issues. For example, the systems won't be able to communicate with each other. So from different departments, if you set a field that uses all these kind of characters and another just uses numeric values, probably it will be difficult to integrate them and to search in both of them. Obviously, the hardware is still there. We still have hardware. So if something happens within the equipment, something fails, light, energy or something, it can actually compromise the information that is there, the integrity. And virus and malware, I don't need to say that, right? They alter and they block access to information. What kind of mechanisms? Well, we have digital signatures and hash functions. I don't know if you heard about this, but these create a unique code for information, for a file, for whatever you want. And this unique code, whenever there is an alteration in the document, even if it's just a space that you add or you change a character, that code that is created will be different. So it won't match the original code. And then you can detect problems. You can detect integrity problems because you will know that something happened. It may have been an error, it may not be an attacker or something, but still the information is no longer accurate. You cannot trust that information anymore. You can also have validation. So in that form I was telling you about, okay, check. If you want to put numbers, you probably should check that and limit the insertion to numbers and not anything else. And you can have also standards. So on the side of cybersecurity, one of the main issues that don't have very good solutions is the interoperability between systems. This is a main issue, a main problem that still does not work well. We try to build standards so that different systems can collaborate and talk with each other. But especially in healthcare, we can have a department with many different systems that don't communicate with each other. And that in terms also of security, of availability, of integrity of the data can have a serious impact. And then consistency methods. I'm sure you all know that databases, for example, relational databases have these consistency methods. They just process the transactions in a sequence, and if something happens, they have to roll back and all that. So it's an example. They can have many others. Then in terms of availability, yes, we can have, again, software and hardware problems. If the equipment fails, right, the disk just stops working, then obviously you cannot access data there. Then natural disasters, yes, floods and fires and so on. But you can have also problems at the software level, so denial of service attacks, and this can also compromise the performance of the machines, of the servers that actually stop responding to what you're trying to ask, and obviously they can block access and put the servers down, and you cannot access what you need and perform what you need to do. And then obviously we need to talk about ransomware, because this is one of the main, most common attacks nowadays, especially in healthcare. Many healthcare institutions are being attacked now. It has increased a lot, especially during pandemic, and just blocks access to the departments. Emergency departments can even put down a whole institution. And there have been cases related to deaths to some patients regarding this kind of attacks. So this is very serious. And it's very hard to prevent these kind of things. Because even if you have backups, it doesn't mean that it will be able to reboot. And even you can replace okay, you have good backups, they will work, they will be there. But then the data is already at the attacker side, right? They already have the data, they can exploit it afterwards. I don't know, blackmailing, requesting, problems with reputation of that organization. So this is very, very difficult situation, and is very common, and solutions are hard. So I was talking about backups. It's very nice to have this policy of backups, and you should have it, because you really need to have even if it is some sort of equipment. And there is a whole policy, a whole management of backup situation. But many times you think you are backing up what you need, but many times when you go there and need the things, either you are not backing up what you need, or it won't work, or it is not already updated for the technology that you're using. So there are many issues regarding backups that there's a whole policy of management there. And in terms of ransomware, I told you, even if you have very good backups, it may not be enough, because then you cannot really, I mean, the data is already out. You cannot prevent or predict what is going to happen. But you can have redundant equipment, redundant software, obviously, and hopefully with more and more we'll have resilient systems that can detect faster the problems and can re-put or replace and recover faster from the problems and the incidents that may be there. Auditing, monitoring everywhere, always 24/7. So I don't know, we'll have questions at the end, right? But if, yes, it's better, okay. Because I think I'm giving too much information fast, and just please take a note if you want to ask later. So regarding this main context, I mean, these are huge, huge domains. As I told you, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of them, and then we can discuss further if you want. So AI, obviously AI is very trendy, but AI is not, new. It's something that has been evolving for a few years now. But when I think about AI and the problems, I think mainly about the data, right? Now the data, there's a lot of data around. And with what the new models do is they get a lot of data faster because of performance now. We have better technology. And we think about the risks that AI can have. So risks in the data collection. So what are the sources? AI is getting sources from where? Can we trust the sources? Can we trust how the data is being collected? And then obviously the processing. So what are these models processing? How are they working? Who trained them? How were they trained? Can we trust that? So there are many risks involved there. And we know that attacks are becoming more sophisticated. So the people on the other side, let's say the attackers, will use AI, and they are using AI to create more sophisticated attacks. They have more information about everyone. Everything, so they can triangulate more information, even with public sources, and they get to know, they can get to know people better and target to that people or that institution. And they can do it faster, and very fast and massively, so can get around the world very fast. You can think about a phishing email that can just go around very fast everywhere. And if you use ChatGPT, which many people do, millions of people, maybe you can get even faster. So again, I give you an example of AI issue. It's just an example of that, an attack that was performed by a research team. So in medical context. So what they did, they use a Raspberry Pi, they put it within, between the MRI machine that generates exams from images, from bodies, from the patients, and between the MRI machine and the intranet. So they put this device, it was sniffing there, it was looking at all the communication that was coming from the MRI machine. It was not encrypted, so it could see everything. So how they did this? They went at night to a hospital, they entered to the place, the room that had the machines. I think there was someone cleaning there, so they left the door open, something like that. So they managed to intercept it, put there the device. And then, in fact, of course, they had AI scientists there, data scientists that could alter the data. They could know what was happening, could alter the data. And they altered the exams. So they altered the exams in order, they added tumors, and then some of them, they deleted the tumors. So in fact, they actually fooled the radiologists. So many of them, as you see there, 99% of altered scans with malignant tumors, they misdiagnosed. And then 94% of altered image that had cancerous image but were removed, they were also misdiagnosed. So this is very difficult to detect these kind of things. And you can think, okay, but who would want to do this? Well, I don't know, but people want to do harm. People want to harm even the reputation of some institution that can easily do this. Because in fact, in order to perform this major attack, they started with a very small one that was more focused on social engineering, on things. How can a person enter a hospital and go to a room that is open at night and just put there the device to sniff? So generally again, so in terms of vulnerability, AI, as I told you, can have many information from many different sources. So I see a very issue regarding privacy compromise. And again, identity theft, because you can easily maybe define a profile of any one of us, right? You can find information publicly about us, or you can just, go with ChatGPT. Also, we keep using it, so we give information as well, probably. So this is very, it will be easier to do it, right? Because you can do it faster with AI systems and more accurate, so you can target more the attacks. And everybody also heard about disinformation. We know that AI is not only about ChatGPT. We have many different AI systems generating audio, video, all images, all kind of data, and in many formats. So it's very easy to just, besides the already poor data that may be being collected by the system, which can have issues, right? It may not be trustable. It can also be used to generate even more data that is not correct, fake news, as you all know. So it's very difficult to detect and to prevent this, and even more for me to detect and to make sure how do we do this in order that we know that is not true. And there is a lack of transparency, because as much as we want to know about AI, it kind of is a black box. We don't really know what the models are doing, how they are, what kind of processing they are making. So in the end, if we don't know about something, it may be doing anything. So it may even bypass regulations, GDPR, it may not even be compliant with that. How do we know that? And again, it depends on the source there. If you have data regarding, I don't know, more discriminatory or biased data, then the model will work on that and will provide outcomes based on that. Imagine you're a doctor and making a decision based on a support decision system that has data that is biased, it's not accurate, it's from a source that you cannot trustworth. And I'm sure doctors are using ChatGPT. So what kind of defenses? Well, I know it's kind of boring, but we really need to understand the risks that we have. While using, each one of us, while using the system, we need to understand what are the risks, right? We should be able to use them, but we maybe trust, use other sources to confirm that data, certify that data is correct, using other systems, other more trustworthy systems to confirm that that data that is generated is okay. But again, with the double-edged sword, we can have the sword that is actually, the part of the sword that is actually trying to help us. So if we use AI systems to provide more attacks faster and so on, more sophisticated, then you can also use it to detect more problems, right? Network detection will be faster, the system will be recovered faster as well. And this can be used also to support compliance, to support forensic analysis, for example, to investigate further, to explore easier. So again, the same tool can be used to provide supporting and tools for us. Currently, we have the AI Act. I don't know if you heard about this. This is a European legislation. It has come out, I think, in July this year. So the AI Act tries to kind of control the situation of AI, the risks that it has. So it tries to define the AI systems in terms of risks. So if you have an AI system, you need to see, okay, what is the risk? If it is a very high risk, so you cannot use it, it's harmful for humans, or it is a high level, but you can still be used in certain situations, or maybe a low risk, and you can use it anywhere. But then it puts the human in control. It puts the human in the middle. So it's not something that you just, okay, you say it's a very high risk system, but you leave it alone. You just leave it there, and it can do what it wants. No, the human needs to be there to control, to make sure that it is right like that. Keep checking it. So I don't know if this is going to be like that in the future, but I would agree that if it is a technology to support humans, to be there to help, then obviously the human needs to know what is being done. It needs to be in control, I think. But I don't know. Let's see. Regarding quantum, I'm sure you know a lot more about quantum cryptography than I do, or quantum computing, let's say. I focus a bit more on quantum cryptography. But I think, okay, it's getting here, right? It's getting faster. It's getting here. It will be here. Someday it will be here. And I think it will be able to accelerate AI, right? It makes things even faster than AI already does, more momentaneously, let's say. So, so the attacks, again, that we can make with AI probably will be even faster and easier. But focusing more in the cryptography side, which is what I know a bit more, let's say, it can break today's security, you know, the ciphers that we have and that we use in payments today. Everything is encrypted with RSA or elliptic curves or other symmetric keys that we have. And obviously, when the quantum is here, then this will be broken quite easily. And the issue is very interesting that if someone is collecting encrypted data now, that they know they're very confidential, when the thing is broken, they can decrypt it. You can access, you know, documents, confidential documents about governments everywhere that have encrypted data with this. So if someone, you know, the attackers are collecting all this data, they will be able to access it when they have access to quantum. So yes, you can improve other attacks. You don't even need to go to the deciphering parts. You can go to the side channel attacks, you know, checking about all the rest that is happening, all the communication that is happening. You don't really need to decipher to understand and know about what is going on, what type of data is traveling. Traffic analysis, obviously we talked about the network detection, what is going on will be faster. Tempest attacks are about looking at the emissions that are done, the energy and so on, light and so on. They can, you can gather information only by looking at that. And again, then viruses and malware, I don't want to think about that. But we can also, again, on the other side, we can be safer, hopefully, because with quantum cryptography, and again, sorry, I'm focusing on the cryptography part, but we can have one-time, I don't know if you know about one-time passwords are the ones that are most secure nowadays, because if you keep using the same password, it will be probably easier to guess it. But if you just use it one time and just the next time on the communication you use a different one, that will be much secure, because there is no time for the attackers, hopefully, to get the key. And with quantum, you can generate a key. You can generate it quite easily, faster for all the communications. Hopefully, that can happen. So that's why I put there one-time key, so you can generate keys with no problem. And you can have a proper randomness, because today with the technology that we have number generator, random number generators, but they are not really. They are still kind of pseudo random number generators. So with quantum, it will be able to really generate randomness that we don't have it now. Then there's also something we can do in order not using quantum, let's say. We can still be able to use the classic algorithms. And there's been work being doing that, like in the NIST, in US, they have already proposed at least 4 algorithms of encryption, which are resistant to quantum attacks, let's say. So hopefully we can still be able to use others, not the ones that exist now, but others that will be able to not be attacked by quantum, at least at the beginning, because this, you know, it's always possible theoretically to break everything. And then again, detect and respond faster as AI. So in this case, it's important to not wait for things to happen, but be informed about what will be the consequences so that we can prepare now. Especially with organizations that use encryption and use all this. They cannot wait just to, okay, one day there is quantum cryptography, you can break everything, and then what we do, we just take out our databases and replace everything. So this needs to be thought beforehand. It's better. So IoT is another issue, but this issue is already here, and it's been here for a few years. We have lots of sensors. This is growing a lot, right? We have many devices. Especially we have mobile phones. Sometimes we forget this is also an IoT that we have everywhere. And I think with IoT there is a bigger problem, like with cloud security, but I think it's even worse. Because IoT, the devices don't have any security. They are not built for security. Many times they don't have authentication, for example. So how do you control that? How do you make sure that they are performing securely? Well, at the moment you cannot. And there's also a lot of lack of knowledge regarding these devices, because there are many different ones, right? How can you be expert in any of them or in all of them? This is very difficult. Again, there's a weak authentication if it exists. Sometimes it's just have the default password. Sometimes they don't have passwords. Sometimes it's just there in the firmware, and a lack of standardization. So it's like you can think about mushrooms that grow, but no one really controls what is happening. At least mushrooms are connected with each other, but these devices are not, and they should, but it's very difficult then. And in some of them there's inability to update them. So for example, if you think of a medical device, a pacemaker, how do you patch them? Probably you can do it now, but the issue is probably if there is a default or some fault in the device, you will need to wait for the next version of the system to be updated and then come back. So it's not that easy for this kind of device. Something about the medical ones, probably others are easy. Of course, we can, in a mobile phone, we can update, right, the operating system and so on. So again, no security. I'll give you just an example of this case is IOMT, so IoT for medical devices. This was also a researcher that made a homemade antenna, you know, this metal one, and built some simple software. According to him, it was a simple software. So he could communicate and look around, wireless communicate and see what were the wireless infusion pumps that were around. So infusion pumps, diabetics patients, you know, the ones they use, so they don't need to think about, okay, now I need to take a piece of blood and so on. So it's like they are supposed to be automatic. And he could find out the RFID was always on. It was not even possible for those devices, specific devices, to turn off the RFID. So he could find out where they were, and he could actually, because the password was just there in clear, it was in the firmware, so he could find the password and communicate with a pump to increase the dosage, decrease the dosage. It was able to control the devices. So this was something that he did, you know, offline, let's say. You don't, and it was, let's say, an ethical hacker. It was someone that wanted to provoke any harm, but you can think about if someone is just driving around trying to increase or alter the dosage of diabetic patients, probably not a good thing to happen. Yeah, so this is just an example. Again, vulnerabilities, we already said. Defenses, we have some, at least we can think already of authentication. Okay, at least have something to prove that device, you can access that device, the device is kind of trustworthy. We can have at level of hardware, I'm sure you've heard of it, tamper-proofing. So can have a way that in terms of hardware, if someone tries to tamper with the device will do something like zeroing the information or something like that. You need expertise in order to know how to manage these kind of devices. We can also try to apply zero trust architecture. So zero trust architecture, it's about you always try to verify the device, try to authenticate the device as much as possible. You cannot trust that the device is already there, so it must be trustable because it's connected to the network. It's like a type of architecture to keep checking if that, for something that the device requests, you always check, okay, is this device for real, what you want to access, and something like that. So is that thing about trust but verify. Then obviously you can have encryption, because many times you don't have, as you saw in the attacks that I showed. And monitoring, obviously, don't need to say anything. So imagine now you have IoT with AI and with quantum. It can escalate a lot, all these issues. Hopefully also they can balance, but... And I want to end, I'm sure I'm already above my time, but sorry about that. I want to finish with social engineering. I know we're all kind of tech people, but we don't want to know about human or the users, but we are also users, so we can also be impacted by this. And in the end, social engineering is the most common attacks and the most successful attacks. So one of them is phishing. So one of the most common attacks is phishing. And this can be very hard to find solutions for, very hard also to detect. If each one of us receives a phishing email, it will depend on each one of us to decide whether to be attacked, let's say, or not. It's not something that, for example, a system at a network is checking and it can relate with many things. No, it's just one of us, according to our experiences, our humor at the moment, our knowledge and everything, which sometimes doesn't matter because cybersecurity people can also be fooled, okay? It's not something that awareness in training is not enough, and that's why it's so difficult to find effective solutions. And again, if you are in a hospital, it's just a doctor, you receive an email, it's something that with AI, for example, it's something that is targeted to you, that is something that even you are waiting for. Why shouldn't you click? I mean, it sounds reasonable enough. But of course, this has no solutions, and we need to think about this. The problem is this is part of our nature. There is these principles of persuasion, they are finite, so it's like 5 or 6 principles of persuasion that are studied, that we have used in our relations. For example, the principle of authority. If the policeman comes to us and tells us to do something, we probably will think about doing it, right? Or if our parents or something more familiar, our boss, probably will do it. There's another principle called herd, which is something like if everybody is doing, probably it's okay for me to do it as well. These kind of things that we don't think about it, logically or not consciously. But when we are doing these things, probably that's what they do. For example, you won a lottery, you earn a lot of money. That's another principle, greed or something like that. So in the end, what can we do? It's in our nature. But we need to do something. We need to be aware. And awareness in education can help to a certain point. They are not obviously definite solutions, but it's different when you are aware for something that, okay, this seems very real, but I didn't ask for this, or this has errors, or this comes out of the blue. Maybe I should check with someone and call, okay, did you send me this? Or try to check that. Of course, you waste more time, but sometimes it can be, it's better to waste some more time and be safe. Training as well. I'm sure that many companies use training regarding phishing. They have these phishing strategies. They send phishing emails like randomly to employees to see if they already, they don't fall for it. Unfortunately, we see that many times they fall recurrently, so the same person still clicks, still doesn't, it's hard. It may not be the person's fault, but okay, but something needs to be done. So besides all this, I think people need to be aware in a different way, in how it impacts themselves. So if you are in a school, for example, you're using a system, you should think, okay, why I should try to be more careful? Why shouldn't I click this? Or why should I at least check if it is okay? Because it will impact you anyway. It will impact you, it will impact the school, it will impact our colleagues. So these things I think people don't really realize yet. They think, okay, nothing happens. I click here, I mean, nothing happens, right? Nothing explodes. Hopefully nothing will explode right away. But something may happen. It's like, I always think that we should do this, we think about the rules when safety rules outside, when you cross the street, when you need to learn about how to drive, you need to learn about the problems so that you don't get, you minimize the risks. So it's something like that. People need to understand better what is going on, what the systems are about, what happens when I click a button. Why shouldn't we all know about this? I mean, it's basic issues. And that's why I advocate for people to start younger, to learn about this in schools, even preschool, even primary school. I think this should be the training, the awareness, the information should be done early. I think that will help. Obviously, generations need to grow onto that, and culturally, but I don't see any more solutions as it is. Maybe AI will help us, can create some AI chatbots or some robots that can tell you and warn you on the fly, okay, please check this. But I don't know. that I just remember now, but I don't know. But it's very difficult because as humans, we can one day be aware, and the other day the same thing we may not, because we are distracted with something. So the solutions are difficult. But hopefully, what I wanted a kind of finishing message is we need to make sure that we know about these risks individually and responsibly, because we don't have enough people to protect us. So we don't have enough IT people, we don't have even less cybersecurity people that can actually, you know, have the balance between the groups of attackers and the groups that actually are defending us. So we need each one of us needs to take responsibility for that, at least in our own, you know, context, and as much as we can. And I think that's okay. Then try to add social engineering, AI, quantum IoT, and all these issues, and then everything. Yes, and that's what happens in reality, because usually most attacks start with social engineering. So they try to use the faster issue to enter. For example, if you get an admin password, you're already inside the system, then you can create more sophisticated attacks. So if you try to use all this together, IoT, you know, sensors with patients, with personal health data, sensitive data, okay, then you can imagine the problems there. So thank you very much for your attention, for being here. If you have any questions that I try to clarify for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, we only have 10 minutes, so please put your questions, and maybe I think 2 questions we'll have time. So, any questions?
I've heard once that if I know every password that I use, I am not secure. And it's very important to use like password managers, like 1Password, Bitwarden. How can you advise us about this?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we still will have passwords for many, many years, unfortunately. We wanted to replace them, but it's difficult. Definitely, if you have many passwords, you need to use a password manager. I think is the best option, because it will help you generate stronger passwords, because it will be difficult for you to remember everything. But it doesn't mean it is safe, because there are password managers that can be broken, as you may have heard. Some of them are not that trustworthy. So you need to make sure that you keep update with the news and see which ones are, you know, rated best and more secure. Still, I think, if possible, and it should be possible, to have more than a password for accessing. So multi-factor authentication. Usually in security, we have 2 different factors. Something you are, like a biometric, something you know, like a password or a PIN, and something that you have, like a card. Ideally, you should use 2 different ones. Not something that you know twice, but something that you know with a biometrics, or a card with something that you know, or biometrics with a card. That will make it, there are studies that say that makes, it increases exponentially the security. If you use 3, even better, 3 different ones, but then the usability and interaction no one will want to keep like lots of minutes just to enter a system. So there are also these usability issues. That's why many times you try to bypass systems that are too complicated and too cumbersome to enter. But okay, that's what I think, my opinion. So okay, thank you.
Adding to that question of the passwords, do you think the new technologies of passkeys are a good advancement to the industry?
Well, passkeys, I think in some situations they are better, but the problem I think with passkeys is usability. I think people don't really know much about that, so I think that is an issue. That should be more maybe information, more regarding the advantages to use it, because password, you just need to remember something, although for people it's difficult still. But I think passkeys, it's a degree a bit further than that. So there is also an issue with cybersecurity, which is the usability of the systems. As I was saying, if it takes a long time, it's like in healthcare. I mean, let's be real. People share passwords in a team. The nurses, they are in a room, they share the same thing. Someone opens in the beginning, of the day or in the shift, and then it just leaves it open for everybody. So. And we don't want that, because then we cannot responsibilize whoever did that, and it's very important for the institution to know. So in a way, I think that's the issue, and think lack of knowledge first, and it may be a bit more difficult, let's say, to use at first, or to understand at first. But in terms of let's say theoretical security, I think for me, I think is better, and it's that's to be better than passwords, definitely. So. Yes, still not known. Yes, they are using you to test. Yes, that's what I hate with technology. We all test for them. They should be tested first. Okay. Okay, but that information is not there, so they should have that information. Advertise more and tell people what are the main advantages in comparison to passwords. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So I'm not sure about the question I'm making, because I'm still studying the topic. Do you think that blockchain, it's like a data type, a database type? It's it's like yeah, it's like a way to store things. Do you think that with the growth of cryptocurrency, the cryptography with AI and quantum computer, do you think that blockchain will be like a thing, a bigger thing?
Okay, thank you. Usually blockchains comes up in the question. So I don't know if everybody knows more or less the basics of blockchain. So it's about encrypting data in a way, and the storing data and the processes of who accesses what, when, and have that recorded. Hopefully it cannot be changed, and it's safer, but there are some issues, but still, it is a strong technology. So when AI comes, when quantum cryptography or quantum computing comes, probably you can do that faster. The performance will be better, because one of the issues with blockchain, now it's getting better, but when it was starting, it was difficult because of performance issues. It was not, because you have to check everything, right? Check the whole chain before everyone needs to accept that that thing is valid, that processing is valid. And I think AI quantum will do that. But I also, again, the other edge will be that maybe these technologies, and if attackers will take these technologies first, because they always before us, they probably will use it to try to find ways to break it, to see it is already possible to have information without decrypting the blockchain blocks. So probably they can use that, the side channel attacks, and get more information around what is being done, triangulate it with public information like Instagram, and finding the people that are, around, because it is possible to do that already. So I think they imagine that with all this technology now, it will enhance even more, and it will be faster to do that. But still, at the moment, blockchain is a robust technology in order to store information, yes, to protect the privacy and the data, yes, for now. No, but it is, yes. All the research projects in Europe, they have to put blockchain there, otherwise they're yeah. So, anyone else? Oh yes, yes.
Because the streaming.
Okay. Okay. About IoT devices, I believe they are the weakest link in the security. So, because of printers are also very vulnerable, so IoT is, I believe, is even easy. And in the hardware, probably they even don't have crypto CPUs, so it's even worse. So, and if I use, for instance, a pacemaker, how can be guaranteed that my pacemaker not even will be hacked, and within my pacemaker they can hack my wireless communications of the house?
Thank you. That's a really great question. When I was doing the presentation, I wanted to choose which one I would use, if I would use the wireless infusion pumps or the pacemaker. So researchers already broke into pacemakers as well. In fact, there is a very known one on the internet, which was a person that was actually using a pacemaker, and that woman wanted to make sure to see if she was able to hack it, and it was able to do it. So nothing's 100% secure, okay, we already know that. And but the thing is, with these systems, while we still don't have the guarantees, and there is some regulation coming out that we need to certify the security of these systems at the European level, but it's still not there, and we don't know how we'll perform the certification and keep the certification update, because it's very difficult to do that. We need people to do that part, right, to audit and everything. So with these kind of things, we need to make sure we have it up to date as much as possible. If you are a hacker, you can protect it yourself, maybe. You can just take it out from the network, but we're not all hackers, and it's not possible yet. So I would suggest keep it updated, the patchings, all the things. Keep it with the most, tested version. And hopefully there are teams of researchers that keep doing this, trying to hack things. And I think the best tool here is really information, to make sure that you have, because how can you know, right? You don't know. It's very difficult to have that. And in terms of the printer, yes, printers, it was a very good example that you were saying, because anyway, printers many times don't have, I don't think they have authentication at all. I don't know if now they have. And the problem with printers, you can just leave the papers there, and doctors just print the records and leave it there, or they take them home in paper anyway. So in the end, it's a matter of us following the rules and knowing the problems that you can impact other people's health or other people's well-being or identity or reputation. But many times we're not thinking about others, just thinking about yourself and our well-being. So yeah, but IoT for me, compared with all the other issues, is one main big one that we still don't have, not even regulation, not even right procedures to, because anything can be an IoT device, right? Anything can connect. And yes, a pacemaker probably you can connect to the, because if you're using an app maybe on a mobile phone to connect to the pacemaker, I don't know if that exists, but probably it will exist soon. Yes, to connect directly to the professional. So probably if you have that, then again, you introduce another risk there, a communication channel that probably your mobile is connecting with your home network or whatever, your public Wi-Fi at a cafe, and anything can happen after that. Oh, sorry, I wasn't using the microphone. I hope you heard. Okay, thank you. Very good questions, thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you so much, Anna. Thank you to Women in Tech for all these masterclasses, and to Câmara do Porto, a sponsor for 42 Porto, who has given us this space. And I hope you enjoyed, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for watching also. Sim, vamos. Podes cortar o streaming.